The escape pod screamed through the sky like a wounded metal bird. The heat from re-entry made the metal shell glow a fierce orange, and the sound was deafening. I could feel the vibrations rattling my bones, and the acrid smell of burning components filled the small cabin. The control panel was a mess of flickering lights and alarms, each one signaling a different failure. There was no time to think, only to brace for impact. I held on tight, the world a green and brown blur. The pod was spinning uncontrollably, and through the small window I caught glimpses of the dense jungle rushing up to meet me. The trees looked like spears ready to impale the fragile metal shell. My heart raced as I gripped the armrests, knuckles white with fear. The ground was coming up fast, and I knew the landing would be brutal. Crash! Vines smacked against the window, and the smell of burning fuel filled the air. The impact was jarring, throwing me against the restraints. The pod skidded to a halt, and for a moment everything was silent, except for the crackling of flames. I could see thick vines already starting to creep over the wreckage, as if the jungle itself was trying to reclaim the intruder. The air was thick with smoke and the pungent odor of scorched vegetation. I kicked my way out of the wreckage, coughing, my heart pounding. The smoke stung my eyes and throat, making it hard to breathe. I stumbled out into the open, gasping for fresh air. The jungle was alive with sounds, a cacophony of unfamiliar noises that set my nerves on edge. I had to get away from the crash site, but my legs felt like jelly. Each step was a struggle, but I forced myself to move. This wasn't in the plan. I was supposed to land in a safe zone, not in the middle of an alien jungle. The mission briefing hadn't prepared me for this. I looked around trying to get my bearings, but everything was strange and disorienting. The trees were massive, their trunks twisted and gnarled, and the underbrush was so thick it was almost impassable. I felt a surge of panic but pushed it down. I had to stay focused. I stood up, looking at the strange jungle. The foliage was unlike anything I'd ever seen, with leaves the size of shields and flowers that glowed with an eerie bioluminescence. The air was humid and heavy, making it hard to breathe. I could hear the distant calls of unknown creatures, and the rustling of leaves suggested that I was not alone. I needed to find shelter and figure out my next move. Giant ferns dripped water, and sunlight made the leaves look like emeralds and gold. The beauty of the place was almost surreal, a stark contrast to the danger I knew lurked within. I took a moment to appreciate the scene, knowing it might be one of the few peaceful moments I would have. The jungle was both a paradise and a prison, and I had to navigate it carefully. The air was thick and heavy with weird flower smells and damp earth. Every breath was a mix of sweet and earthy scents, almost intoxicating. The ground was soft and spongy underfoot, making it difficult to walk. I could see strange flowers with petals that seemed to pulse with light, and I wondered if they were dangerous. Everything here was an unknown, and I had to be cautious. Something shrieked, a high, scary sound. Okay, time to survive. The noise sent a chill down my spine, and I instinctively reached for my weapon. My training kicked in, and I scanned the area for threats. The jungle was full of hiding places, and I had no idea what kind of creatures lived here. I had to stay alert and be ready for anything. Survival was now my top priority. I checked my gun, useless, broken in the crash. The barrel was bent and the trigger was jammed. I cursed under my breath, knowing that I was now even more vulnerable. Without a functioning weapon, I had to rely on my wits and whatever tools I could find. The jungle was a hostile environment, and I needed to be prepared for anything. Great, just a hunk of metal. I tossed the broken gun aside, feeling a pang of frustration. It was supposed to be my lifeline, and now it was just dead weight. I had to think of another way to defend myself. The jungle was full of potential dangers, and I couldn't afford to be caught off guard. I needed to find something that could serve as a weapon. I pulled out my knife. Its weight felt good in my hand. Time to explore. The blade was sharp and reliable, a comforting presence in this alien world. I knew it wasn't much, but it was better than nothing. I had to move quickly and find a safe place to set up camp. The jungle was vast and full of unknowns, but I was determined to survive, and most importantly, find a way to call for help. My comms device was my only link to the outside world, and I had to get it working. I searched through the wreckage, hoping to find something that could boost the signal. The dense jungle canopy made it difficult, but I couldn't give up. I had to let someone know I was alive, if they even have anything like that on this crazy planet. The technology here was unlike anything I'd ever seen, and I wasn't sure if my equipment would even work. I had to adapt and improvise, using whatever I could find. The jungle was a challenge, but I was ready to face it head-on. Survival was my only option, and I was determined to make it out alive. The jungle was like a maze of green and shadows. Huge trees, bigger than any at home, reached for the sky. Thick vines snaked across the ground. Like traps, I moved slowly, listening and watching. Every sound, every little bug made my heart jump. The jungle was alive, and it felt exciting and scary at the same time. I felt like it was watching me, figuring me out, and I had a feeling I wasn't the biggest, strongest thing here. Hours went by. It got hotter and harder to breathe. I sipped my water slowly, knowing finding more would be tough, and right now I wasn't feeling very lucky at all. I froze. My heart pounded in my chest, each beat echoing in my ears like a drum. The dense jungle around me seemed to close in, the shadows growing darker and more menacing. I could feel the sweat trickling down my back, my senses heightened to every rustle and whisper of the forest. There, under a giant tree, were two people. They stood still, almost blending into the massive tree's shadow. The air around them seemed to shimmer with an otherworldly energy, making it hard to tell if they were real or just figments of my imagination. Two women with skin the color of the deep ocean. Their blue hue was so vivid, it was as if they had been painted by the sea itself. They looked at me with an intensity that made my skin prickle. Their eyes were big and bright, like stars. They seemed to pierce through the dense foliage, illuminating the dark corners of the jungle. It was as if they could see right through me, reading my every thought and emotion. They were unlike anything I'd ever seen, beautiful and scary. Their beauty was mesmerizing, but there was an underlying danger in their gaze that made my heart race even faster. It was a strange mix of awe and fear that left me rooted to the spot. One held a spear made from a sharp stick pointed right at me. The spear looked primitive, yet deadly. Her grip was firm and her stance was one of readiness, as if she was prepared to strike at any moment. The other one, smaller, whispered something that sounded like water flowing over rocks. Her voice was soft and melodic, a stark contrast to the tense atmosphere. It was almost hypnotic, drawing me in despite the danger I felt. It was pretty, but I didn't understand it. The words were foreign, yet they carried a soothing quality that made me want to listen more. It was like a lullaby in the midst of chaos. I put my hands up slowly, showing I meant no harm. My movements were deliberate, trying to convey peace and submission. I hoped they would understand this universal gesture of surrender. At least that's what it means where I come from. In my world, raising your hands is a sign of peace, a way to show you are unarmed and not a threat. But here, in this strange place, I had no idea if it meant the same thing. No idea if it means the same here. The uncertainty gnawed at me, making me feel even more vulnerable. I could only hope that they would recognize my intentions and not see me as an enemy. "I mean no harm," I said, my voice scratchy from thirst and fear. The words felt inadequate, but they were all I had. My throat was dry and my voice wavered, betraying my fear. My words felt small and useless. In the face of these otherworldly beings, my human language seemed insignificant. I could only hope that my tone and body language would convey my sincerity. The one with the spear didn't move it, not even a little. Her eyes remained fixed on me, unblinking and unwavering. It was clear that she was not easily convinced. Okay, this was going to be interesting. The tension in the air was palpable, and I knew that the next few moments would be crucial. My fate hung in the balance, and all I could do was wait and see what would happen next. It felt like something was about to break. The air was thick with tension, every rustle of leaves and distant animal call amplifying the suspense. The jungle seemed to hold its breath, waiting for the next move. We just stood there, three people from different worlds, all scared. Each of us was a stranger in this moment, bound by the same fear and uncertainty. The silence between us was deafening, a fragile thread that could snap at any second. The jungle hummed around us. It was alive, a living, breathing entity that seemed to watch our every move. The dense foliage whispered secrets, the canopy above casting dappled shadows that danced on the forest floor. Their amazing bright eyes never left me. They were filled with a mix of curiosity and caution, reflecting the same emotions that churned within me. It was a silent communication, a mutual understanding of the precariousness of our situation. They were watching me, just like I was watching them, Every movement, every breath was measured and deliberate. We were locked in a silent dance, each step carefully considered to avoid provoking the other, looking for any sign of danger. The jungle was a maze of potential threats, and we were all on high alert. Every shadow, every sound was a possible harbinger of peril. I tried to show I wasn't going to hurt them, keeping my body relaxed, moving slowly. But I was terrified. My heart pounded in my chest, my mind racing with thoughts of what could go wrong. I had to appear calm, even though I felt anything but. I didn't know what they could do. Their capabilities were a mystery to me, and that unknown was the most frightening part. I was in their territory, and they had the advantage, and my gut told me to run. But where? This was their home. They knew every inch of this jungle, every hidden path and secret hiding spot. I would be lost in seconds. They moved through it so easily. Running would be stupid. They were like shadows, blending seamlessly with the environment. I had to think of another way to survive this encounter. My only hope was to show them I wasn't dangerous. I had to convey my intentions without words, using only my body language and expressions. It was a delicate balance, trying to appear non-threatening while staying alert. But how do you talk to someone who doesn't speak your language? The challenge was immense, but I had to try. I raised my hands slowly, palms open, hoping they would understand this universal gesture of peace. The next few moments would determine our fate. Section 5. Razor claws in the dark. The answer wasn't words, but a loud roar that shook the jungle. The ground trembled. The women jumped, their eyes wide. The taller one shouted something in their strange language. It wasn't a question, it was an order. And for some reason, I did what she said. We ran into the thick plants. I didn't need to see the creature to know it was dangerous. The smell was enough. Like rotting meat and something else, something alien and scary. The ground shook with its steps. We ran silently, wanting only to survive. The air was full of fear. I didn't know if we could outrun it, but I knew we couldn't stop. Section 6. A bridge of words. We finally fell behind some thorny vines, gasping for air. The roars were gone, but the danger wasn't. For a minute we just breathed. Then slowly we looked at each other. I pointed to myself. "John," I said. The taller woman tilted her head, thinking. Then she pointed to herself. "Zara," she said. Her voice was pretty. She pointed to her friend. "Lila." It was just one word, but it felt important. We had names. We weren't just aliens anymore. We were John, Zara, and Lila, and we were in this together. Section 7. The hunt begins. The jungle was quiet again. We were safe for now, but not really. We needed to get away from that creature, find a better place. Zara took charge. She talked to Lila in their language, using her hands to show what she meant. Lila, I realized, was the careful one, always looking around. They moved so smoothly through the jungle. Zara stopped, sniffing the air. She pointed to some trees covered in glowing mushrooms. Lila nodded, holding her knife tighter. They were hunting, and I was going with them. Section 8. Escape through the roots. The hunt was fast and exciting. Zara and Lila were so good with their weapons. They killed a creature that looked like a boar with 6 legs and huge tusks. It fought hard, but they were too skilled. As they prepared the food, I saw tunnels under the tree roots. They looked too perfect to be natural. "What are those?" I asked. Zara looked. Her eyes narrowed. "Escape," she said. "Danger come." I didn't need to hear more. We took what we could and went into the tunnels. The air was thick and old, the tunnels small and twisty. I didn't like it, but it was better than whatever danger Zara sensed. Section 9. A glimmer in the canopy. Hours later, we came out, blinking in the bright sunlight. The fresh air smelled amazing. We were high up, the trees spreading out below us like a green ocean. And then I saw it. Something metal, shining in the sun, a ship. Hope filled me stronger than anything else. We weren't rescued yet, but there was a chance to leave this planet, to go home. I looked at Zara and Lila. They were tired, but their eyes were full of hope too. We had lived through the night, and together we would find a way out of this jungle. Together we would survive.